Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and holy crap, we've done it. From the abyss, from being considered by many to be one of the worst teams in the league, a failed rebuild in year 3, firings and wholesale changes on the horizon. From that to this, right now. The Miami Dolphins are a winning team in 2021, and as of this moment, hold the 7th and final wildcard spot heading into Week 17. Yes, the Fins are now 8-7 with 1-7 in the rear view. Things really look completely different for everyone in the organization, from Chris Greer seemingly hitting now on a few young studs, Flores keeping his guys engaged and focused enough to pull off this historic turnaround. No team ever in the history of the league has lost 7 games in a row and then won 7 games in a row. That's not necessarily something to be super proud of because it involves losing 7 games in a row, but the fact that he was able, Flores, to keep the guys engaged and stick with the program, and again, credit to the players as well for sticking with that process and showing that they have trust in their coaches and believe that what's being preached can lead to success. And of course, credit to us fans sticking by our guys despite the dark days of September and October. And if you were there with us, you know there were some depressing weeks mixed in there. But today, we're going to take a look at exactly how Miami was able to dismantle the Saints with a score of 20-3, making them look like a straight JV squad and dominate their way to victory for 4 full quarters. Let's get to it and let's dive in. If you listen to Monday's preview episode, you know that I was hoping for a beatdown. And we got that. But for some reason, it didn't feel as satisfying as you would hope, right? Like, look, I'm a believer in a win's a win because at the end of the day, I'll take a game where you look like shit and win versus looking awesome and then losing. The dub gets the nod every single time. And let's be clear, the Dolphins did not play like shit. They played well, the defense specifically, but the offense and Tua, they left a little bit to be desired. But starting with the good, starting with our defense, let me be clear. We got a Super Bowl caliber unit out there. From the starting unit to the scheme and that the way the scheme's being called, the plays being called, to even the reserves and the backups being really good. Flores has no doubt built something special here. We've seen it for 2 seasons now, and he managed to coach a pretty decent unit in the second half of 2019 as well, his first season, and that was with guys who aren't even in the league anymore. So in 2019, he showed he could take a scrap heap of guys who aren't on NFL rosters, frankly, pretty much a year after they were with us. Most of those guys, a lot of those corners, bounced around and eventually fell out. But he took those guys and created a pretty decent unit, at least decent enough to head up to Foxborough and beat Tom Brady in his final regular season appearance in New England. And then last season, we remember what that defense did. I mean, we heard all offseason that that's the only reason we won 10 games. Tua got carried by them, so clearly they were pretty good. And now this year, what we're seeing, absolutely amazing. Brian Flores knows that side of the ball. And the Dolphins D did exactly what you should be doing to a mid-round pick making his first ever start. Smother and dominate them. And oh boy, did we witness some domination. Remember, the Dolphins can only play who's in front of them. So I don't care that there were backups. It didn't matter on Monday night. The amoeba front, it was ever present, which we were asking for, confusing the crap out of poor Ian Book. If Miami wasn't hurrying him, sacking him, or just making him run around blindly, trying to avoid yet another hit, they were locking down the rest of the field. Miami's corners did an outstanding job of taking away almost everything downfield. And over the course of this streak, we've been getting excellent secondary play. And I wonder how much that has to do with the Saints not really having a complete team, or if Javon Holland's return was much needed. Regardless, the secondary and linebackers did an awesome job. The front 7, the D-line, and pass rushers, they too had an amazing day. And we'll get into specific players in our Studs and Duds segment, but across the board, Miami was able to bottle up anything around the line of scrimmage. Alvin Kamara was contained, and Miami forced the Saints into second and third and longs consistently, passing downs, right? That's what those are. When you get into 3rd and 7, okay, feel free to run it, but everyone knows you're likely throwing it downfield, and that puts pressure on the rookie quarterback. On just 13 carries, Kamara only totaled 52 yards, and no other rusher, including veteran Mark Ingram, was really able to get anything going. Book, considering the circumstances, really wasn't as bad as he could have been. Don't get me wrong, we did see a reincarnation of John Beck out there, but there's always worse. We know that as Dolphins fans. He wasn't getting any help either from his team. And for his first time out, having to face a hot Miami defense clicking late in the season when Miami needs to win, sheesh, he was doomed to failure. He finished 12 of 20 for 135 yards and 2 interceptions, although there could have been plenty more. There were some dropped opportunities. As a whole, seeing Miami fly around the field, bottling things up and gang tackling consistently shows me that they're really hitting their stride and playing as a single unit. I mean, look, I know we're battered and beaten Dolphins fans, but I think it's time to accept the fact that our defense is excellent and likely they're going to play like that down the stretch. Barring an outbreak or an injury to a key guy early in the next week game, early on in the Titans game, you lose Raekwon Davis, Javon Holland or X goes down. Obviously, God willing, that doesn't happen. But, you should expect this defense to continue to be stout against both run and the pass. Yeah, early on this season, the defense wasn't good. Teams could run on us. They set themselves up with manageable 2nd and 3rd downs, and Miami's inability to create an organic pass rush, it allowed opposing quarterbacks survey the field, find their target, and keep drives going. It's why, in our 1-7 start, you saw teams put up 35, 31, hell, 45 points on the board. But now, that's not going to happen. The guys on the field, they get their roles. Their influence on the defense and the overall understanding of the scheme, it's allowing them to play free, fast, and also pretty physical, hitting hard and playing with instinct rather than thinking so much and playing with their head. Now that you also got the quarterback of the defense in place, Javon Holland, his role cannot be understated. It feels like this defense started clicking when he started clicking. When Brian Flores and Josh Boyer trusted him back there to make the right calls to the secondary, be that quarterback, line up the back end properly, and if something were to break through, have enough trust in him as well to be that last line of defense. Early in the year, Holland couldn't fill that role. Obviously, he's a rookie entering the NFL, and it's clear now that Jason McCourty couldn't either. And if you think about it, there was a trickle-down effect early on in the year. If you don't trust your safety to be the single line of defense, all the pressure is on them. That's what the zero cover look does. It's what the amoeba front does. Then you need to play coverages to counter that because you don't trust that single high safety. You then have 2 safeties and other more traditional back-end defenses. And when you do that, you have less front 7 defenders. And then you're asking guys on the line to be able to apply that pressure themselves. And that's great, right? When you got an elite guy on the end who can consistently do that for you. If you have someone who can single-handedly wreck a pocket, then yeah, you want to have extra DBs because you know you can still get there and then defend the whole field. But unless you got that Myles Garrett or Bosa brother, if you don't, you just have to have extremely good role players, and then getting to the quarterback is difficult, even if you have extremely good role players. So with that combination, right, defensive backs, you got them, but there's no organic pressure. It doesn't matter that you have 2 high-priced corners who can play at near elite levels consistently. No organic pressure, you're going to get sliced up by most quarterbacks in the NFL. Then you throw in the fact that the offensive side of the ball doesn't have the starting quarterback for 4 of those 7 losses, and now that 1-7 start starts to look a lot more believable when we think back on it. It's not some wild mystery, although people think that. Most national media members don't pay attention to local teams. They just kind of read the surface box score and make their assessments there. So, of course, they're baffled at how the Dolphins have been able to turn around. But Miami has always had this level of play within them. But due to a combination of circumstances, some things out of their control and some things entirely their fault, they struggled out the gate. Now, though, they know their players can be trusted, specifically on defense. You can have one less defensive back and instead throw them on the line. Throw Brandon Jones on the line. Throw Eric Rowe, Javon Holland as a pass rusher. Why? because you know everyone has a handle on their assignments behind them, and then you trust your two high-priced corners to do their job on the outside. So far, all the pieces have come together, and things are firing on all cylinders for this unit. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. What I do see stopping this team is our offense. That part of the team was not dominant, and although they did more than enough to win the game, a lot of points were left out there, a lot of drives were stopped prematurely, and those points and drives are what you're going to need over these next 2 weeks. Tua did not have a great game. He wasn't bad by any means, but he was not able to settle in and play within the game like we've seen other times this season. Instead, it looked like the environment was a bit in his head. He was shakier than normal, throwing less accurate passes, and just not looking as confident with his overall body language, things we've seen when we play in Miami. He made a few really nice throws, and as per usual, he executed the offense extremely well, called timeouts appropriately, kept Miami generally in good positions, but he wasn't consistent enough. To be fair to him, he wasn't playing against any slouches, right? Just days earlier, almost the same unit shut out Tom Brady and the Bucs. The Saints were at home. It was a national primetime game. They knew their offense needed them to ball, and they were playing their best. It showed. Cameron Jordan, Marcus Davenport, they were exactly as advertised, consistently breaking the pocket and forcing Tua to throw off platform or hurried before he wanted to let go of the ball. Maybe he was a beat too late to the guy. It had an impact. And the offensive line's poor play, it extended to the running game too. As happy as I was to see Miami's new look backfield, Phillip Lindsay and Duke Johnson being those go-to guys, with Gaskin being thrown in with the role he should have, a third down or more traditionally receiving back, none of those guys could get anything going, as the Saints frankly controlled the line and prevented Miami from churning out any yardage on the ground. The only nice run all night was thanks to Duke Johnson, once again showing that reignited spirit down in Miami. He collided with a defender, ran him over, and with someone pulling his jersey, continued forward for the first down in the red zone. That run was on Miami's only good drive all night. It was the touchdown drive following Tua's early second half interception. Another thing about Tua that is a good sign, we're seeing when he does make a mistake, he usually bounces back very well. And frankly, when you consider that all quarterbacks are going to throw interceptions, all quarterbacks are going to make mistakes, especially early on in their career, what's more important is seeing if they devolve or if they get better. And what we're seeing from Tua is he doesn't get scared. Oh, single high safety. I got Mac Hollins one-on-one on the outside. I just threw a pick. Screw it. Send it down there. That's a good sign from him. But going forward, generally, we do need to see better play on the offensive side of the ball. The issue, though, is there are multiple factors leading to the current sluggish situation. Well, not that many factors. It really kind of boils down to line play and Tua, right? Like we said, generally, Tua needs to step up his game. Right? He needs to lift this team and be able to bail out the offense, something he does occasionally, but he's not doing consistently enough to be considered a star. If he starts doing that, and on a lot of these drives that end up stalling out around midfield on that 3rd and 7, if he's able to more consistently get that throw made and keep the chains moving and actually help this offense churn out points, whether it be field goals or touchdown drives, as long as the scoreboard's going up, that's where his respect will start to go up as well. The line needs to be better, obviously, to not just give Tua a chance to settle in and then survey the field, but also to establish a running game. We all know the benefits of having a good ground game, and their benefits Tua and the offense aren't getting right now. I appreciate Miami working at it. You see them keep trying to establish the run, and I know the Saints have a good defensive line, but it's not like Miami's about to play some cupcake defenses down the stretch. We have to see improved play from the guys up front. My fear now in week 17, the reality that this is just what it's going to be, that's the likeliest reality. Now it's on George Godsey and Eric Studesville to create game plans within that, understanding that. And I think that's something that they're trying to do. And I think it's why this offense looks very conservative, because they're calling plays and they're building the weekly game plans, understanding how limited the line is. So it all kind of feeds into each other. But can Tua elevate things? Can he be a true franchise quarterback? I think we're about to find out for sure, or at least get a glimpse in which direction it's likely headed. Let's get specific, though. Talk about the studs and duds from Monday night's performance. But first, a word from our sponsor. These days, it can be hard to find and hire the right candidates for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs made it easier to find the people that you want to talk to faster and for free. I know when I'm looking to find a new job, build my career, or network with others in the field, I turn to LinkedIn, and as a potential employer or even employee, you can too. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. Focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience that you need and use screening questions to get your role in front of only those who are most qualified. Then, use the simple tools on LinkedIn Jobs to filter through and prioritize who you want to interview and ultimately hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? And post your job for free using our link at linkedin.com/fins. That's linkedin.com/PHINS, fins, to post your job for free. Remember, terms and conditions apply. The first stud of the game was the only guy on offense who looked like a superstar. Welcome back, Jalen Waddle. You were sorely missed. He finished the game with 10 receptions, now just 5 catches short of the NFL record. He got 92 yards and the lone offensive touchdown. He really is the go-to guy for Tua and this offense. Whenever Miami needs that guaranteed 2 to 6 yards, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, in between the 20s, you can bet a play has been designed to get Waddle in space and to get him the ball. And so far, despite defenses knowing that that's coming, they can't stop it. He's proven to be one of the best players on the team overall, and considering he's just 23, that's extremely exciting. He's not only helping to save the season for our Fins, he may be the first-round pick who saves this regime as well. You thought the 2020 draft was going to kill him? Well, damn, they drafted Jalen Waddle, and he's saving all their jobs. Our first dud, it goes to someone who I thought was turning a corner, but then showed exactly how far he has left to go, offensive guard Austin Jackson. Jackson was a liability out there, truly. In the run game, he struggled to seal guys off to help open holes. He allowed way too much penetration into gaps. And look, runs were stuffed up before they could even get started, oftentimes because Austin Jackson was missing his assignment. On plays where he's asked to climb to that second level, get to the linebacker or DB to help maybe open something up, he's often way too late or just whiffs on it entirely, where that second level defender comes up to the first level and makes the play. In pass protection, he seems to be okay when head up on a guy. He has good physical tools. There's a reason he was drafted in the first round, and he has experience at tackle. And it is translating a little bit to pass protection on the inside at guard. But what the kid just can't handle are stunts and twists. Simple ones. Anytime that you see a major fuck up from him, it's usually because the defensive end who was outside Liam Eichenberg looped in, or the defensive tackle who was head up on Robert Hunt looped inward. And rather than being able to identify that, pass guys off properly or understand, oh my God, there's no one in front of me, I'm not blocking anyone, maybe that means someone's coming or I should turn my head and find them. But no, Jackson just looks around confused and he lets the end come roaring into the A or B gap, getting into his face and essentially blowing up the play. The thing about his issues is that they're not always physical, right? Unlike Jesse Davis, who we'll be getting to, trust me on that, Jackson, he tends to make mental errors. That can be cleaned up. And we knew he was going to be a project. It's just frustrating that 2 full seasons in, he's still failing to improve on the mental side of the game. And that, I think, is where you can point to coaching issues. I do expect Austin Jackson to be on this team next season, mainly due to his draft status and the contractual control we do have, but I hope Miami brings in a starting caliber guard and resigns to the fact that Austin should be a backup or just generally in a developmental role. Maybe 3-4 years into his career, he can be a damn good guard once he figures out how to pick up stunts and twists and different attacks that the defense is going to give you as an offensive lineman. But for now, he's not showing that he's capable of doing that. Our next stud, defensive end Emmanuel Ogbah. He had himself a game and continues to be a big player during this winning streak. He finished with 2 sacks and 3 tackles. And look, Ogbah isn't the most dynamic pass rusher, right? It's not like he's got crazy bend or crazy good agility. What Ogbah has is power, a lot of it, and relentless pursuit. in this defense, in this scheme where rushes tend to be coordinated and a lot more complicated. Again, we saw that, and I believe Louis Riddick pointed it out as well, but on one of the sacks Miami got, one of the 8 sacks that Miami got with Brandon Jones was sent in as sort of a kamikaze. He just went in to take out the tackle to let Ogba loop in. Ogba got that initial pressure, forced Ian Book to step up, and then Brandon Jones was heads up enough to make the sack. But you're seeing how complicated these pass rush schemes are. And look, Ogba's being opened up to make these plays often. He seems to be the guy that they let kind of take advantage of these loops and these plays. He's the one they're trying to get open, and he's capitalizing to the fullest. Whether he's the one being used as a decoy, stunting in as well to take out an offensive guard, or if he's the one head up one-on-one with the tackle, he's able to leave his imprint on the line, and even if he doesn't cause necessarily a statistical hurry or gets a sack, you can see and feel his impact on the pocket and forces a lot of breakdown single-handedly, forces quarterbacks to flush out, flush to the other side. He's just having a big impact on this defense's recent success. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Emmanuel Ogba, and I expect him to continue to be relentless in the final 2 weeks. He has been showing that he's getting better as the season goes along, so I don't see why that should be stopping anytime soon. Our next dud, and this pains me, Tua Tagovailoa. Look, like I said, I've said this a lot, he didn't have a bad game. He didn't cost the team much, right, aside from one poor throw. And again, he's not being supported consistently enough up front. But here at the PhinsPod, we hold Tua to a higher standard. I believe he can be great. I know a lot of you believe he can be great. So I'm going to evaluate him knowing what we've seen from him before. And on Monday night, he did not perform to his capabilities. And I think he'd be the first to tell you that. He was missing on some throws, specifically on that early third down after Austin Jackson whiffed on a stunting defensive end, go figures. Tua rushed the throw and sailed it high and wide to Myles Gaskin, who was coming across short but wide open and had room to turn up field for the first down if he just put it on him. But he missed it. The interception, it was a bad read and a worse throw. Hollins, the intended receiver, I believe, he didn't even have a chance as it flew right over his head. And Tua stepped up in the pocket. He avoided pressure nicely, stepped up, had a clean look, knew exactly what the situation was, and was like, screw it, I'm throwing it down there. Ooh, overthrew it, picked off. And frankly, the part that's probably most depressing is that Waddle, he was closer to Tua and wide open, ready for a big gain, if Tua just made the right read and throw. But there, he didn't. Look, he also made some amazing throws, things that you want to see from high-level quarterbacks. That deep bomb right after the pick, that was excellent. And he made a bunch of other nice throws into tight windows throughout the game. But down this stretch, playing the hardest and most important games of the season, you need Tua to see his best. You need Tua to play at his present best, what he can give right now, second year in his career. Obviously, we know, hopefully, as he develops, we'll get a better version of Tua at his best. But we need to see currently what he can do at the highest level. We need that guy who throws for 2 to 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, high completion percentage, efficiency. That's the guy we need. And for these past 2 weeks, that's not the guy we've gotten, right? I have faith that he'll pick it up. Because if he does, and then we win these final 2 games, that's the stuff of legends. The final stud, that goes to unsung hero Zachary Sieler. He played perhaps his best game as a Dolphin, in my opinion. For weeks, his role has been limited. Within that role, he's amazing. Stout against the run, controlling his gap responsibility, and being able to shed blockers and finish tackles. Zach Sieler is not one to get washed down by a tackle, push down 2 to 3 yards. That's not something he does. That's something Austin Jackson does on the other side. But Sieler, he's really good. Having been part of the rotation now with Wilkins, Davis, and Butler, he's been great for this defense, and he was executing his role to near perfection on Monday night. The only thing lacking in his game, and again, it's not even lacking considering his position and what he's asked to do, but it's his ability to rush the quarterback. We don't see that a ton from Zach Sieler. Now, maybe it's because of how he's used, like I said. Maybe it's the scheme and those limited snaps, but regardless, he was in Ian Book's face last night, all night. He finished with a sack and 3 tackles, but those numbers do not give his performance justice, as most numbers generally don't. He flushed Book out often, and a few of the other sacks, of the 8 sacks Miami had on the night, Sieler had his hand in a few of them. I love Miami's front seven. The depth is great, and considering we've been blessed with health, knock on wood, I am looking forward to seeing them get after it against Ryan Tannehill and Mac Jones. Our final dud, Jesse Davis. He was worse than Austin, honestly, in my opinion. Look, not only is he just not good at pass protection, he sucks at run blocking too. The one thing that he used to be able to hang his hat on, right? Being a decent run blocking tackle or usually guard, but he doesn't have it anymore. Guys are able to get outside and around him often. He gets pushed back and flattened way too much for your starting blindside tackle. You want your tackle to be doing the pancaking, not being the one getting pancaked back into his quarterback's lap. He just isn't showing improvement over the season. If anything, he's just getting more worn down. And I hate that in the midst of this awesome stretch with hopes for this historic run into the playoffs, you got Jesse freaking Davis starting at one of the most important positions on the field. That alone, that could be the thing that kills this season for us. And to be frank, if our offense's inability to protect Tua or establish a running game, if that's the Achilles heel down the stretch, it kind of serves this regime right, considering the lack of urgency to address the clear need that we all saw in the offseason. You made this bed, Flores and Greer. Lie in it. So, there are our studs and duds for Miami's huge win over New Orleans by a score of 20-3. I predicted 27-12, so not close. I thought Miami's offense would be better. I did not expect the Dolphins' defense to be as good, or should I say the Saints' offense to be that bad. Probably a mix of both. But here's a little stat, though, that flew across my screen last night, which surprised me. It shouldn't have, considering we've witnessed each of these games. But in all of Miami's 7 games during this win streak, they've won all of them by 7 points or more. So that makes this whole narrative that Miami's win streak is kind of meaningless due to the competition, or you should look at it in context because they're playing weak teams. I mean, I feel like it kind of throws that out the window, right? If Miami had squeaked by in any of these games, if they managed a 3 or 5 point win against one of those 2 games against the Jets, Panthers, or Giants, right? Maybe there's more credence to, look, the Dolphins are just in the midst of a lucky run. The ball is bouncing their way, and it's about going to happen. It's due time for the ball to bounce the other way. It's going to happen against the Titans or the Patriots. They've played weak opponents. But Miami is truly beating these teams. They're winning convincingly. They've been doing that now for the better part of 2 months. I know that the real test is coming up now, but if you're trying to inform your opinion of what this team is and who they could be, that's a piece of information that should make you feel confident. Not only are they beating the teams they're supposed to beat, the Miami Dolphins are winning with relative ease, and in the NFL, that's incredibly hard to do. By winning 7 games in a row by more than 7 points, that's impressive. And look, we're set up now for an awesome showdown. Miami continues this little road trip as they travel up to Nashville to face our good old friend Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee currently holds the 2nd seed in the AFC, so no one's going to be doubting the caliber of opponent come Sunday. But watch, they'll twist it. It's a huge game, right? Not only being Miami's 8th potential win in a row, but officially clinching a winning season with 9 wins on the year if they pull it off. There's plenty on the line for Tennessee as well, since their loss of Derrick Henry has really shaken them up. They've looked like a different team without him, and importantly, a beatable team. Next time, we'll get into the matchup, talk about whether we can expect to see improvement out of Tua, and what matchups to look for with that defense led by former Patriot Mike Vrabel. And of course, how Ryan Tannehill will challenge the hot Dolphins defense. Can Flores get him and propel Miami a step closer to the postseason? We'll get into that, so be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't so you don't miss a thing. Let's keep this rolling. It's been a fun time to be a Miami Dolphins fan, and we're happy you're on the ride here with us.
This was not the New Orleans Saints that we're used to. It's not the New Orleans Saints we're even expecting in 2021. It was the zombie Saints. They had a lot of guys out. It doesn't matter if you're a Dolphins fan. You get the win. You keep on rolling. And Tennessee's next. Let's actually face one of these big boys and see if you can do it, because the resume says one thing, and I look at it, and it says they're in the playoffs, and that defense is leading the way.
That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you guys so much for listening to the PhinsPod. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, as always, to Timothy Ritchie, Brian Guger, and Chris, members of the pod and supporters of the show over on Patreon. Check that out. Links in the description, or head to patreon.com/PhinsPod. Thank you all so much for the continued support, and please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show, and subscribe just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins. Remember, the show is always available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, if you prefer listening in the car while working out, or just for a nice little walk in these winter months. Regardless, always feel free to listen to us via audio as well, and continue the conversation over on Twitter and Instagram at PhinsPod. Also wanted to mention Spotify has released recently a review system on Spotify itself. So if you do listen to us via Spotify, if you do enjoy the show, we greatly appreciate it if you could leave a rating. It does help us out, helps other Fin fans find the pod. And also, if you listen on Apple, we'd always appreciate a review there. Same thing applies. But I hope you all have an amazing day. Keep enjoying this victory week, yet another victory week. And until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.